One of the most popular swimming spots in Central Texas remains closed for swimming. Jacob's Well has not been open for nearly a year.
The yellow drone slipped into the blue water and immediately dropped into total darkness.
They were told by some local residents that it was more or less a waste of time because the well only went down 100 feet. To date, our team has mapped over 7,000 feet of cave.
Scientists watched the screen as the machine pushed past 30 feet into a place where humans are banned for their own safety. They were trying to map the cave but found a cold case instead. Believe it or not, it gets even weirder once you see the skeletal remains pinned by the rocks. The well has a reputation for being a diver's grave, and this footage proves it. Now we finally know what is waiting at the very bottom of the hole. Haunted echoes under Texas. In the sun-baked area of Texas Hill Country, there is a small town called Wimberley that holds a dark secret. Just outside of town, a creek flows over limestone, and right in the middle is a perfectly round hole. This is Jacob's Well. On a hot day, you will see crowds of kids and tourists jumping into the clear water. It looks like a dream, but the truth is that it is a beautiful illusion. To say it was big is not even the half of it. The well is actually the mouth of a giant underwater cave system that goes down over 100 feet. Most people have no idea that they are swimming right over a place that has claimed the lives of at least 12 people. The water stays at 68 degrees Fahrenheit all year, which makes it feel great when the Texas sun is burning. But once you go past 30 feet, the fun stops and the danger starts. The well is a vertical cave that reaches deep into the Trinity Aquifer. For swimmers, it is just a hole, but for divers, it is a legend. The part that nobody talks about is how the well is built like a perfect trap. There are 4 main rooms, and each one is harder to reach than the last. To get deep, you have to squeeze through spots with names like the birth canal and the coffin. It is not even close to being safe. Wait, there is one big problem with the water. It is so clear that it tricks you. The bottom of the deep rooms is covered in a thick, powdery dust called silt. If a diver moves their foot the wrong way, that dust clouds the water instantly. In seconds, you cannot see your own hand or the way out. This is called a silt out, and it is how many people get lost forever. They panic, breathe too fast, and run out of air. Because the tunnels are so tight and the rocks move, some of those bodies are still down there today. The well has become a permanent home for those who push too far. Local leaders tried to stop the tragedy by welding a heavy metal gate over the deep parts. They thought this would keep the young divers out. But believe it or not, it gets even weirder. People would come at night with big tools and cut the gate open just to get back inside. The pull of the mystery was just too strong to resist. This is why scientists finally decided to stop sending people and start sending robots. They needed to map the system without losing any more lives. They brought in an advanced drone to see the parts of the well that no one has seen in a long time. The team gathered at the edge of the water with a yellow drone named Explorer. This was not a toy. It had 4K cameras and very strong lights to see in the dark. A long cable connected it to a van where everyone watched the screens. They wanted to see the 4th chamber, which is the most feared part of the system. As the drone went down, the team was quiet and nervous. They were looking for data, but they found something much more shocking instead. But the drone was about to see something that would stay with the team forever. Crushing weight of water. The drone started its trip by dropping into the first room where the sun still shines. The limestone walls looked white and pretty under the water, but as the operator pushed the robot deeper, the blue light faded away. At 80 feet deep, the sun was totally gone. The drone turned on its big lights, and the cave looked like a different planet. The walls were smooth because water had been moving through them for thousands of years. The team watched the screen closely as the drone reached the narrow spot known as the birth canal. Here is the tiny detail that almost everyone misses. The floor of the cave is not solid rock. It is made of loose gravel and rocks that can slide at any time. The operator had to be very careful not to let the drone hit the walls or the floor. One wrong move could cloud the water and stop the mission. They squeezed through the tight spot and entered the 3rd room. It was huge and silent like a big, empty house. The drone floated there for a second while the team checked the maps. They were now in a place where very few humans had ever been. Then they saw the entrance to the 4th chamber. It was just a small, dark crack in the wall. This is the part that makes absolutely no sense. Why would anyone try to fit through there? The drone pushed into the tunnel and the walls got very tight. Suddenly, the light hit something that was not a rock. It was a piece of metal. The operator zoomed in and the whole van went quiet. It was an old air tank half buried in the dirt. Next to it was a scuba fin sticking up from the gravel. If you look a little closer, you find the real story. Tucked into a corner were the remains of a human body. The scientists were not just on a map mission anymore. They had found a grave. The drone stayed still, shining its lights on the sad scene. The gear looked very old, like it had been down there for many years. On a small tag on the wetsuit, they could see a name. It said Kent Maupin. Everyone in the diving world knew that name because he was a legend who disappeared a long time ago. Kent vanished in 1979, and for decades, no one knew exactly where he was. Now, a robot was looking right at him. The footage showed that he did not just get lost. It looked like the cave itself fell on him. The gravel floor had shifted and pinned him down so he could not move. But the drone did not stop there. It moved the camera around and found another tank and another fin. Kent was not alone in that dark hole. The team realized they were looking at a place that held the secrets of many lost explorers. Fatal choices undersurface. To understand what the drone found, we have to go back to September 9, 1979. Back then, cave diving was like the Wild West. People did not have the same safety rules we have now. They were brave, but often did very risky things to be the first to find something new. Kent Maupin was 20 years old and very good at diving. He was obsessed with finding the end of Jacob's Well. He and his friend Mark Brashear decided they were going to be the ones to finally see the fourth chamber. They went to the well with a group of friends for a camping trip. As the sun went down, Kent and Mark got their gear ready. They knew the well was dangerous, but they felt they were ready for it. Most folks have no idea how little they prepared. They did not take extra lights or a safety rope. A safety rope is the most important thing because it shows you the way back to the surface. Without it, you are just guessing in the dark. They dove in with pure confidence, thinking they could just swim back out the same way they came in. Another diver named Joe was in the water with them. He watched them go down past the first two rooms and through the birth canal. But then things got scary. Joe watched as Kent and Mark took their heavy air tanks off their backs and pushed them into the tiny hole of the fourth chamber. This is the part that trips everyone up. You should never leave your air supply behind or push it into a spot you can't fit through easily. Kent went into the blackness first and Mark followed right behind him. Joe stayed at the opening feeling very afraid. He waved his light around to try and get them to come back, but they did not look. He hit his knife against his tank to make a loud noise, but there was no answer. He was running out of air himself and had to go back up. As he swam away, the water suddenly turned white with silt. Someone had kicked up the dust and now it was impossible to see. Joe barely made it to the surface, and when he got there, he was all alone. He called for help, and soon a famous diver named Don Dibble arrived. Don was an expert and had worked for the Navy. He knew the well was a predator. He gathered a team to try and save the boys, but he knew time was running out. They waited for morning light to start the search. They did not know that the well was about to try and claim another life before the day was over. Don was about to face a nightmare that almost cost him everything. Broken stomach wall. The next morning, Don Dibble and his team went down into the well. They reached the fourth chamber and saw a wall of gravel blocking the way. They tried to move the rocks with small tools, but for every rock they moved, two more fell down. It was like trying to dig a hole in a pile of sugar. Don decided he had to go in himself to see if he could find Kent and Mark. He squeezed into the hole with a light and a safety rope, but then the worst thing happened. The entire ceiling of gravel collapsed on top of him. Don was buried alive in the dark. He could not move his arms or legs. He was stuck in a total silt out, and his air was running out fast. He felt the weight of the rocks crushing him and knew he only had a few minutes left. In that moment, he felt very calm and decided to let go. He actually opened his mouth to drink the water so it would be over faster, but his body had an automatic reflex and jerked hard. That one move freed his arm just enough to reach a friend who was swimming nearby with extra air. He was saved from the rocks, but he was in big trouble. Because he had swallowed so much air and water, his stomach was puffed up like a giant balloon. As he swam to the surface, the air inside him started to grow because the pressure was changing. By the time he got out of the water, he looked like he was 9 months pregnant. He was in so much pain that he could not even speak. They rushed him to the hospital, and the doctors found something that made them gasp. The pressure had caused his stomach to actually burst inside his body. It was a 1 in a million injury, and the doctor said it was like cutting into a basketball that was full of air. It was a miracle that he lived. While Don was in the hospital, other teams tried to use a giant vacuum hose to suck the gravel out of the well. They worked for days, but the well just kept refilling itself with more rocks. It was a moving grave that did not want to be opened. After 12 days, the families had to make a very sad choice. They decided to leave Kent and Mark where they were. It was too dangerous to keep looking. The well was sealed with concrete to keep everyone else safe. For a long time, people thought that was the end of the story. But the drone footage showed that the well never truly sleeps. The shifting gravel is still moving down there today, hiding and showing secrets whenever it wants. Is Jacob's Well a cursed place that we should stay away from forever, or is it just a natural wonder that we are slowly destroying? Let us know what you think about these mysteries. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more hidden stories like this one.